In an effort to be complete, I've decided to go ahead and include the screwball. I've met a lot of them in my lifetime, as well as I know you have, and you probably sit next to several of them in the stands, but I'm talking about actually throwing a screwball. My philosophy on a screwball tends to make me sometimes think that we shouldn't include it. It shouldn't be something that some of the young girls are throwing based on an injury factor. The stress on the actual elbow and the arm in throwing a screwball is very difficult if not done correctly, and tends to be overused. This is a pitch that should be used as possibly a pitch to set up all your other pitches, and really shouldn't be used all that much in games, no matter how successful of a pitch it is or not. Some pitchers will never complain of any trouble. Some will complain from the get-go. If at any point during this pitch you feel any kind of pain, please just stop it. It's not worth it. Go work on your change-ups, work on your curve balls, and work on the pitches that changes planes vertically, so that it doesn't matter whether you have a screwball or not. I have several pitchers on my team at the University of Arkansas that do not have a screwball, and I will never be bothering to teach. It's really an extra benefit, and if it's something that you're comfortable with and you feel pretty good and have a coach that can help guide you through it, it's a great pitch to learn, and it's something to have fun with. So I challenge you to go work on it and have fun. Right into the grip of the screwball. The two that I'm going to show you today is the first one that I call the nanu-nanu, remembering that I cannot put those two fingers together because of injury factor, but those are the nanu-nanu one from the old Mork and Mindy one. If you take these two fingers, sliding them on this side of the grip, and these two fingers and set them on that side of the grip, my finger will slide down right that direction there. Taking your thumb, rolling it back to the seam to where it splits those two in there, and throwing it right in here with that wrist snap. It's a backwards curveball. So if this is my curveball here, this is my screwball there, which you can feel in your hand and in your wrist snap. It's a very awkward, unnatural motion, snapping motion of that ball. It's a backwards curveball, getting and clearing your hips out of the way. Another grip that I've seen used very often, I never used myself, is something where they put their fingertips right up there on the seam so they had something to hold on, and they take it and they roll it in those fingertips, spreading the thumb as far as they can down in that alley, and doing the same thing as coming and pushing it here to here, so that they've got that same motion, which for some of you might feel a lot like a rise ball, but it's a pushing motion, snapping right into there to where you're feeling it here. I've often heard it said that you feel like you're snapping your fingers like this with that whole thing right like that, so that you're getting that backwards rotation or spin on that ball. The biggest thing to pay attention, or when you're thinking about exact opposite, like the rise ball to me is the exact opposite to the drop ball, the screwball is the exact opposite of what the curve ball is. If you're right-handed and you're throwing a screwball, to a right-handed batter, it is breaking in towards them. Now sometimes with this ball we'll tend to break in and up, kind of like a rise ball. Don't worry about correcting it. We've already talked about something that changes planes vertically is very hard and very difficult for a batter, so we won't worry about that. But the two grips is one with it spread as far as you can right around there. I tend to put my fingertips right up there on the seam so I had something to hold on to right around, or the Mork and Mindy one where you split those two fingers right in half in that direction. They're both having air pockets. From the grip to the wrist snap. The wrist snap is the exact opposite. You're coming this direction, much like a rise ball, throwing the thumb down as you're coming to that doorknob and pushing it this direction. But in order to show you what that wrist snap or how different that really looks, I think it's imperative that we immediately go to that power line where you actually step. This pitch really defies all the odds and everything that we tell you about as far as staying on your power line to keep balance and to keep everything going. If you were to normally step out here on this power line to throw a pitch, and you're getting ready, or we are throwing a screwball pitch right here, what I'm going to tell you to do is you have to get these hips cleared out of the way in order to really make an opposite motion of the curveball. Remember, curveball comes this way. If I'm saying opposite, I'm taking that pitch and coming this direction with it. And if you can see what I'm doing right here, I think it's very easy to see how it can be very strainful on the elbow and hard on a pitcher if overused or done incorrectly. The way we do it with this stride is if my power line is here, I step into the bucket and I clear myself out. Now think about that. I'm telling you to step into that bucket, so when you're driving out hard, you're stepping and taking your body away from the intended target that you're trying to go, so that you can pull by pushing your buttocks or your butt out and clearing in this direction and coming around that trash can or around the bucket you've stepped in. Kind of picture a big Glad trash can, put one there as if right in front of you. that you're going right by your power line, step out to where you know you can avoid it to be able to get that wrist snap down and around. It's a backwards curveball, but you can obviously see where a lot of that stress or strain can come on that elbow if not thrown correctly and if not really worked on wrist snap as opposed to trying to guide it with your arm. It's a quick wrist snap. Right to the wrist snap. Remember our little box right here. It's 5 to 7 inches, 5 to 6 here. I've got my grip. And because I've cleared and stepped in that bucket and gotten my hip out of the way, I'm coming this direction and I'm snapping. Remember, I'm snapping my thumb, leading with my pinky this direction so that the ball is coming out that way, a backwards motion or an opposite curveball. And it's very important to come this direction, but getting this out is the important part. If we do not step in that bucket here and we step straight out and we try to come opposite, the only thing we're gonna do is hit, or the only thing we're gonna do is serve up what we would call a meatball. And the only thing we can do about meatballs is pray that the batter freezes and doesn't hit them, or that you have an excellent defense. There's nothing you can do. One thing I want to make sure that we've pointed out, very rarely will you ever hear me talk about follow through and what it looks like as opposed to just pointing it out what it is at the end so that you know it. Follow throughs aren't that important to me, and the reason I say that for you so that you know that once the ball leaves your hand, you can pretty much do anything. All I advise is that you get yourself in defensive position so if the batter gets lucky and makes contact, you're ready to play defense. So let's put that screwball all together several times so that you can actually see what the body's doing. You have your grip. You've got the catcher to call it. As I'm driving forward, as if it looks like I'm coming towards my power line, I step out, I step into the bucket. Remember that trash can that's right here? I'm clearing my hips out of the way as I come this direction, and I'm coming through or snapping through, right through that doorknob, right back through here, opposite of my curveball. Screwball, if I take that pitch and come right back here, that would be my curveball if I was back on my power line. Biggest difference. Once again, please be careful in throwing that pitch. It's something that takes a lot of practice. Throw it from a very short distance in the beginning so that you can really monitor what's going on. And if at any point something hurts or feels uncomfortable, stop while you're ahead. Don't worry about it. Hang it up and worry about that later.